Oh, yeah. Welcome into the FNIA podcast. And we are joined by greatness. See Tony Dungy, Rodney Harrison, Jac Collinsworth. And we did the mock draft. So we talked about this beforehand, but now we have the draft. We have the picks. Everything's on the table. So let's go through it. Our favorite picks round by round. We'll go round one first. We each get three of them. Coach Dungy, your favorite pick as you watch round one play out.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week. If things fell for the Bears and they had a chance for a great pass rusher or a primetime receiver, what would they do? And I thought they should go for Rome Odunze, and they did. He fell to them. Put another weapon around your number one draft quarterback. Let him cook. And I think they've made a great pick. Odunze, to me, tremendous player, very productive. And I think he's going to do some great things there and learn from Keenan Allen.
Absolutely, Coach. And for me, it's Malik Neighbors. I thought he was the second best wide receiver in all of football in college. Very explosive player. You can put him anywhere on the field. And the Giants drafted Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee last year with the second round pick. Now you combine that with Malik Neighbors. Now they're starting to get some playmakers, some speed on the offensive side of the ball.
So you guys go back-to-back receivers there. First 9 picks, 2 receivers, top selection.
Everybody was talking about the quarterbacks at the top, but there were some great receivers at the top of this draft too. So I think those teams made wise decisions.
Yeah, these are potential Pro Bowl players, all pro players that we're talking about, these young guys.
I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels at the second pick with Washington. I just thought that was one where they could have got creative and they could have tried to trade back and do something fancy, but I really feel it's close between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, who the best quarterback may end up being. It would not shock me if it's Jaden Daniels. And, there was talk right before the draft that maybe he didn't want to be there and maybe they'll pass on him for that reason. But just staying true to your convictions and understanding he's somebody that can change your franchise. Thought it was a wise pick by Washington and one that they'll be rewarded by.
Yeah, and we'll see on these quarterbacks as we go. History will tell us. I remember the 99 draft. It was Tim Couch and Donovan McNabb and Achilles Smith. And who ends up being the guy? You don't know for sure. But you're right, Jack. You have to follow your convictions, and these teams did. But I'm going to drop down to the 15th pick. And the Indianapolis Colts, I know Rodney's going to say I'm a homer here, but there's no way they could have felt like they had their pick of defensive players at pick number 15. Not one defensive player went. They took Latu and felt like they got the premier pass rusher in the draft, and I know they're ecstatic.
Absolutely, Coach. I thought that was an outstanding pick. For me, it would be the 13th pick overall, and that would be the Las Vegas Raiders and getting Brock Bowers. I mean, he's the best tight end in all of football. I mean, this is a guy, you line him up out wide against safeties and linebackers. He creates those one-on-one matchups. But even more importantly than that, we saw the impact of Travis Kelce in that division for years. He's a big reason why they won back-to-back championships and vying for a third championship in a row. It's that presence with that tight end. And I think Brock Bowers, he's unstoppable. I think this is going to be a great pick for the Raiders. And Steve Spagnuolo and the rest of those defensive coordinators, they better be ready to try to stop this guy because Brock Bowers is the real deal.
Does he remind you of anything?
Go ahead, Coach.
I was going to say, I know a lot of the fan base in Indy was very down because they wanted the Colts to go up and get him because they just felt like, hey, we need that presence there in the middle of the field. He can do so much. And I don't know what the price would have been to go up to that pick and get him. But the tight ends now, the way the rules are, the way the game is, these guys can have such an impact, and Bowers is going to be tremendous.
Does he remind you of Kittle? Does he make you think of anybody watching him play, Rodney, or do you think he's sort of his own unique guy?
He is a very unique guy, but you look at him and you don't think that he's going to be a good blocker, and he's a very good blocker. And he's just a good overall team guy, a guy that's going to catch the tough passes. He's big, he's fast. He can run after the catch. I mean, he can do everything. I thought the Chargers was going to grab him. Instead, they drafted an offensive tackle. But I think this is one of the big steals of the draft, being able to get him.
And I would agree with you. And I just want to comfort all of my Colts fans, though, that are still crying that they didn't get him. reminds me of my first draft. We were picking number 11, and we picked this pass rusher, and everybody was, oh, we got an undersized pass rusher. What is he going to do? Dwight Freeney, how's he going to help us? Well, I think Latu is going to be the same way. They're going to get some leads. Richardson is going to put up some points, and this guy's going to be able to close the deal in the fourth quarter. It does remind me a lot of Dwight coming out.
The Colts with a lead. I haven't heard that in a while, Coach. Maybe not since you were coach.
It's been a while. Got to prepare for the future, though.
All right, I'm gonna go with Joe Alt as my next pick. And I've been lucky enough to watch all these linemen go through there. You know, whether it's Mike McGlinchey or it's Zach Martin or Quentin Nelson or Ronnie Stanley, all these guys that have gone on to have really successful NFL careers. And watch them when they're 18 and watch them go through that program. And Harry Heastan, the offensive line coach that many of them are trained by, he's the best of them. You know, I really think that he's the guy that has the chance to be the best, just from a skill set standpoint and all that. He's close with Zach Martin, but I think it's more of a money value position than the one that Zach's playing. This guy's different. And the fact that Harbaugh, with his first pick, recognized that and goes, hey, you know, I know about weapons, but I think offensive linemen are weapons. I totally agree with them on that. And he got a heck of a weapon in Joe Alt.
Hey, Jack, I agree with you, man. When you watch this young man play and you understand what he's learned from his dad, this guy should be a future Hall of Famer. And it just shows you, too, Harbaugh comes in, he sends a message to the league. Yeah, there's some shiny pieces out there, wide receivers and tight ends, but we're going to fortify the offensive line. We already have Rashawn Slater on one side. You get Joe Alt on the other side. Now you're forming one of the best offensive lines in all of football. You know they're going to run the football. They're going to be able to protect Justin Herbert. I absolutely love this pick. If it weren't Bowers that they were going to draft, this is the second best pick. I think this is outstanding for them.
Well, I hate to throw cold water on this. We'll have a discussion a little later on this. I love Joe Alt. His dad was a high school player in Minnesota when I was in college. He used to come over and train with us. I got to coach his dad a little bit with the Chiefs. Tremendous family, work ethic. This guy's going to be a 10-time Pro Bowler. But I'll come back with the counter argument a little later on.
Yeah,
you got that segment coming up with the head scratchers. The pick that you like, though, your final pick of the first round that caught your attention, Coach.
I have to go with the Chiefs. You're the defending champions. You got a lot of things going for you. The one thing that was missing from your offense since Tyreek left was the deep ball. You've got a great deep ball thrower, and you didn't have those receivers to do that. Trade up, go get this guy, Xavier Worthy, one of the fastest receivers in the draft, the guy who can make big plays. Andy Reid knows how to use these guys, and plus, Worthy is living in Texas, so he'll be able to go right away to that camp with Mahomes when all the guys down there. He'll be ready to go during training camp. I love this pick for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and a great compliment to Hollywood Brown as well with that type of speed, losing Rashee Rice. Just a smart move by them. To me, it's cornerback Terrion Arnold from Alabama with the 24th pick, Detroit Lions. I thought this was a really good, young, smart pick. He's a quality player, young player. He should be the day one starter. You got Kirby Joseph back there. You got Brian Branch. So what they're building is some young athletic players that create a lot of plays, that make plays. And these guys, they're going to be really good this year. This is a tremendous pickup for the Detroit Lions in that secondary.
And they needed that. They needed a difference-making corner. You know, people talk about with Detroit, they got a lot of things, right? Like where can they really still elevate the roster? That's the position to me where they could still take that next step, and they did that. I had the same thought, Rodney, as you, different team, and I'm going with Philly and this Quinyon Mitchell. You know, what they did in rounds 1 and 2 at that position, I think, is a really creative draft strategy. And, you know, Howie Roseman is a smart guy, and we've seen him dominate draft weekend before, but you can flip the calculus of your defense and the way that you can play. If he hits on one or both of these guys at 2 corners on rookie deals, I think it could put Philly right back in the mix. And this Quinyon Mitchell did a heck of a job down there at that Senior Bowl. He was locking down wide receivers. So the Toledo thing would scare me less knowing that you've seen him against the top competition.
Let me tell you this, and for all the people that are listening, stop doubting small school players. Okay,
Yeah.
stop. I never thought once about him because he went to Toledo. You watch the film, the guy plays aggressive, he's big, he can lock him down, he jams him at the line of scrimmage, he's a playmaker. I don't know what else you need, coach, for them to see that this guy is the real deal.
I agree with you. We've seen these players, they play against competition all the time. My son, Eric, his high school coach is the OC at University of Toledo. And I talked to him before the draft. He said this kid is as good as anybody he's had come through the program. He had no doubts he's going to be a lockdown corner in the NFL.
He's Richard Sherman. He's Richard Sherman.
Yeah. You know what else, Rod? Even when he was picked and walking out on the stage, you could tell he just has an attitude about him. He's almost looked angry that he fell 22 picks. And to me, that just pairs with Philly and who they want and what they're about. And, I just think he's going to work there. All right. How about we go to round second and third? So 2 and 3, our favorite picks in round 2 and 3. And Coach, you lead us off.
Well, I have to go with the Buffalo Bills. The first pick of day 2 is prime because you have all night to think about it. You're going to get every phone call from everybody who's trying to trade up. You get almost 24 hours to examine those deals. Is it worth it or is it not? They said, you know what? We've got to replace that production we lose from Stephon Diggs. This is our guy, Keon Coleman. He did it at Florida State. He's a productive guy. And they examined this. That's the guy they wanted. Said, hey, the phone, it doesn't matter. We're not taking any calls. We're taking this guy. I believe he's going to be very productive with Josh Allen.
Coach, big, a 50, you throw the ball up, those 50-50 balls, he goes and get it. The one negative, they try to say that he doesn't create separation, but when you're jumping over people at 6'4", 225 pounds, what separation do you need? But I think this was a legitimate pick from him. And he's on a rookie deal, like you talked about. For me, I'm looking at Vlad McConkey, the wide receiver from University of Georgia. When you watch him, to me, he's just so impressive because he's so steady and just very consistent. He'll come across the middle. He's a lot bigger and stronger and faster than what he looks. And this is going to be a guy that really makes an impact. I can see him coming in this year for the Chargers, having 60, 65 catches, maybe 850 yards, and maybe 4 touchdowns. He's going to be a problem. Hunky is a really good player. I'm really excited about him.
I'm with you. Creative route runner, too. I mean, so many times I could remember watching a replay of his route, and you go, man, that's advanced. He's creating more space than your typical route runner. He's got some speed to him, which is deceptive. I'm going to go Rook or row, row, row. And that's how you say it. It's like row, row, row your boat from down to Atlanta. So if you're going to go round 1 and pick another quarterback when you already signed Cousins, in round 2, you better get better. But the rest of your roster better get improved. And I think what the row, row, row it did, he was down there in the Clemson defensive line rooms with a lot of guys that are playing in the NFL. And since his freshman year, he stood out. He just athletically stood out and then improved throughout. So in the second round, I like the value of this pick, and I like that they went pass rusher because when you start looking at their roster, they need it, even with a guy like Grady Jarrett starting to age.
And Jack,
go ahead, Coach.
You mentioned something there about being at Clemson. I've visited Clemson a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, and there's some places that just turn out positions. Clemson, that defensive line room is special. They get trained. They compete hard against one another. And this guy is ready to compete in the NFL, no doubt about it.
He'll learn a lot from Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett is a pro, and he'll help him out. He'll bring him along, no doubt.
Let's go back to Coach.
Well, I'm going to go down to the Rams, and I love the pick of Blake Corum. Big-time running back from a big-time program. And the Rams, think of their Super Bowl. Okay, yeah, we think Sean McVay and Matt Stafford throwing the ball around, but they had that 1-2 punch at running back, ran the ball really, really well that year with Sony Michel and Henderson. They've got Kyron Williams, who is this same type of slasher, tough guy, physical. I think Corum is going to fit right in, give him that second running back to take a little pressure off Kyron and help Sean McVay call those running plays, dial up some more runs.
Coach, I think you're absolutely right. Blake is a dog. He is tough. He is physical, and he's going to be a great, valuable backup. For me, I'm looking at Cooper DeJean, the safety from Iowa. And I won't even call him a safety. I'm just going to call him a defensive back because when I watch him play, he reminds me so much of Minka Fitzpatrick when he was at the University of Alabama, playing in that slot position, but very capable of moving back at safety. This kid is a fantastic athlete, probably the best athlete in the secondary. But he's gonna bring that presence. He can play over the slot. He can play out wide. One thing that you have to pay attention to him is just improving that man-to-man coverage. But overall, this guy, you add Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay. Now you start to get some playmakers back there, and their secondary was a big problem. We know about their linebackers, but now Howie Roseman, they made a concerted effort to fix that secondary, and they've done it with some great players.
I'm so with you on that, Rod. When I heard that he fell to them after they already took Quinyon in the first round, and then they circle back, a lot of GMs wouldn't do it just because it's, hey, we already picked one. Let's not. He was willing to do it, and I think he understands the value of corner. And if you can really find somebody that can lock you down and be a difference maker, it's worth it. And he is. I mean, I remember we did an Iowa game out there, and he was just the best player that they had. And in the game that we did, they had a great receiver on the other side. We're talking to the defensive coordinator before the game, and he for the most part was staying on one side and he wasn't moving around to follow the best receiver. But in our game, they did follow him around, and the way that he locked him down and just eliminated him shows you that he can. And this was a smaller kind of a quick step, put him in the slot, put him outside receiver, and he just followed him everywhere and took him out of the game. So to me, he's an under-recruited guy that really nobody's radar that he was on. He was a star at Iowa, and he continues to rise. And from a personality standpoint, you're not going to find him better. So what they found with Mitchell in round 1 and then him in round 2, personality and game, I just think they hit big.
Yeah,
no, I think you're right.
Coach, if he goes to Alabama, he's a top 18 pick if he goes to Alabama. But because he went to Iowa, now he falls into the second round.
No, you're right. And I love what Jack said. They had a need there. Both of you guys hit it. Philadelphia's secondary did not perform last year. And so, hey, let's go out and attack that need and stack it up, and let's get some guys in there to compete.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to stay on a similar thing with mine. I'm going to go Kalen Bullock, who's a guy that we talked about before the draft that I thought could really be a difference maker for somebody. He's a safety that we were mentioning, long, like we see with the Baltimore. Kyle Hamilton, yeah, exactly. And they get him in the 3rd round, 78th overall. He runs faster than Kyle Hamilton, will hit you. But for Houston, he's going to be a turnover guy, in my opinion. They're going to get, to Coach's point, some leads. And they're going to have some chances for some interceptions and some turnovers. And Kalen Bullock, I think, for the next 10, 12 years, will be a legitimate safety in this league. And in the 3rd round, I like where they got him, too.
And you can pair him with Jalen Petrie and then Derek Stingley Jr. Do you see the type of young secondary that they're building? And it's a very inexpensive secondary. It's not like they're paying a guy $20 million in that secondary. So right. Very smart move by DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, you kind of see the kinds of players DeMeco's going after. These guys who are versatile and tough and love to play football and can do a lot of different things. I think they're building a great foundation there.
Yeah, I'm
going to go to a pick. Slightly after that, Jack, last pick of the 3rd round in Washington, Luke McCaffrey. Okay, we all know the last name. Yep. I think he's going to do some good things there. A slot receiver. They got Terry McLaurin. They got Dotson, but they can play this young man in the slot. We know he's got work ethic. He's tough. He's got good hands. And he's coming in with a young quarterback, a chance to build that chemistry, work out together. And I just think, I think they hit on one here. They're going to get a productive player that's going to play a long time and add to what they're trying to build there.
Tough, smart, like his dad, Ed McCaffrey, who I played against. For me, it's linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, best linebacker, off-ball linebacker in all of college. You watch him, the thing that stands out is just his speed. From sideline to sideline, the guy's a tackling machine. He can cover. He's got great instincts. And when you lose Devondre Campbell because he's gotten a little older, some injuries, to replace him with a guy like that is huge. Now you can add Quay Walker on the side and continue to build that secondary, all the guys that they've added on the defensive side of the ball. You cannot lose with him. This kid was the best linebacker in all of college football. Very excited for him.
And is that about when you'd be thinking about taking a linebacker round wise? You know, everybody seems to be going to this positional value, right? Tackles, and you see the run on cornerbacks. And is that about when linebacker, running back makes sense to you, team building wise, or how do you think about that?
Coach, I think that's to you.
Well, to me, you got to get great players, and these guys that are versatile, that can do different things and can play in different situations. That's what you're looking for. So, I never mind taking these guys. If you got a playmaking linebacker and you got to take him in the top 10, I'm fine with it because these guys can win games for you.
Okay, I like it. Well, I'm going to go a running back, which is same team, though, also to Green Bay, and it's Marshawn Lloyd. And this is a team that just lost Aaron Jones. And so they lost that speed pass catcher option. And he basically is that. I don't want to say he's Aaron Jones off the bat, but from a skill set standpoint, he's somebody that can get to that second level and third level of the defense fast. And that's what he did at USC. It was just speed. So they found somebody that I think can be game breaking and pair with some of the power that Dillon provides in that backfield, and they needed it. I think they needed that Jones. If you're going to lose Aaron Jones, you need somebody to replace what he did, and I think they found that with Lloyd. So I'll go back-to-back Green Bay there with good picks round 2 and 3, Rodney's pick, and now Lloyd. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. This is where you find some of those real game-changing guys. Maybe people aren't even watching the draft when we get to day 3, but these are the game-changing Rodney Harrison type guys. Rounds 4 through 7, Coach, your favorite pick you saw during that phase of this draft.
In this part of the draft, Jack, I'm looking for attitude and production, and I'm turning to the Eagles and Will Shipley. As I said, I've been at Clemson a lot over the last few years. This young man is tough. He beat out a lot of high-level, recruited players. He's played in the same type of read option offense. He knows how to work with the quarterback in that situation. He can catch the ball. And to me, he's going to bring some of that toughness and winning attitude that I didn't see from the Eagles at the end of the season last year.
Yeah, Coach, when you watch him play, he plays hard. He plays extremely fast. Another running back, Coach, I'm going to have to stay with you in the 4th round is running back Jalen Wright from the University of Tennessee. He goes to the Miami Dolphins. He adds even more speed. I mean, this is a guy that played with my son at Tennessee. He's not a big back. He's not going to run you over, but you get him in open space. He's kind of like a Raheem Mostert. He's going to run around you. Raheem can run you over. But this kid, he's a home run hitter. He can catch out of the backfield, a good locker room guy. And you can't lose drafting Jalen Wright in the 4th round. This is a good pick for the Dolphins.
It seems like you may have some little inside information scouting there on this one, right?
Yeah, I've seen him play a lot.
Hey, sometimes that's the best way to scout. You get a little sense of their personality as well. I'm going to go with Eric All, and I like the way that the Bengals did this. It's once you pay Burrow all that money, and you're going to pay Jamar Chase all that money, you're going to be just short of $100 million a year to 2 players. You need to get creative at positions like tight end, and to look in the 4th round and just go draft an athlete. The thing that stands out about All, we called his game this year too, was that it's just speed. He's like a receiver playing tight end. He's got that big body, but when he runs, he's faster than most of the receivers they had on their team. And so when you put that speed with a brain like, a Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor and what they're going to do schematically, I think he could be somebody that pops as soon as year 1 with the amount of skill he's going to be surrounded by on that offense.
And I'm with you, Jack. When you've got a great quarterback, keep feeding him, keep building around him, bring those athletes in and work with your offense and say, we're going to outscore you and you're going to have to deal with all of these weapons. I love it.
Yeah, it gives you a cheap option to get somebody that can play. Don't go pay a tight end. Just get them in the 4th round. How about for you, Coach? Back to you.
Well, I'm going to go to the Jets. And Jordan Travis, young man from Florida State, was injured, got hurt at the end of the year, but led him to an undefeated season. And I think this could be the Jets using the Green Bay formula. hey, get a young quarterback in here, let him learn under Aaron Rodgers for a year or two, and then let's see what we've got. So they may have the Green Bay formula without the drama and without people putting all the pressure on Jordan Travis. Nobody's expecting big things from him or great things third day of the draft. But this might be a young man to keep an eye on.
And I want you guys to pay attention to linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I played against his dad. His dad was a very good pro, played a long time, maybe 10 years or so in this league. I like this kid because he's very similar to his dad. He's the guy is steady. He tackles. He goes. I mean, he's smart. He runs sideline to sideline. Very physical. He'll put his shoulder up in that hole. He should be day one starter. We talked about Philly struggling with their linebackers on the defensive side of the ball. This is a kid that should walk right in and be their starting middle linebacker for the next 7-8 years.
It's interesting how we had this real run of offense and all these offensive picks early. And you saw that as a theme with the draft. Philly, it feels like almost every pick they were just improving that defense, but it's what they needed, right? I mean, that's where they were hurting and leaking towards the end of last year.
It really was. And Rodney talked about playing against Jeremiah Sr. The one thing he brought, Rodney, was attitude. Right? Yes. And so I think Junior is going to do the same thing. And to me, that's what Philly was missing. So you bring in some of these guys who have been used to playing winning football and bring that tough attitude day in and day out. They're going to help, no question.
Yeah, they had a bunch of veterans at the linebacker position last year, and they were all average. Now you get these young guys that are hungry, that are tough, that are excited about playing. That's what they needed. They needed some juice up in there, some guys that really just wanted to play football, excited about playing football. Let's go.
Philly got better. Philly, there's no question Philly got better in this draft.
Yes, they did.
I'm going to go Audric Estime for my 4th through 7th, second pick here. 5th round, 147th overall to Denver. I was thinking in the 5th round, Coach, I don't know about you, that's some good value on Estime. And, they're already going to have a speed running back option there with Javonte Williams and somebody they can rotate. But, I think about Coach Payton, and this is going to be his Mark Ingram. This is going to be his hammer, but Estime is a little bigger and he's a little thicker. And he's built a little like a bowling ball, but he also has breakaway speed. You don't always get that with a power back. We've seen him have these 80-yard runs, 90-yard runs on a consistent basis. And it's because he has that speed too. And he improved his 40 time at the pro day. And I think that's when these teams started going, okay, now you compare the tape speed to the 40 speed and it becomes real. Estime in Denver, he could have 1,000 yards this year. It wouldn't shock me at all.
Well, I had another running back I had my eye on in the late rounds too. And, Rodney had a little inside information at Tennessee. My guy is Bucky Irving, small back, but he started out at University of Minnesota, my alma mater, averaged about 5 yards a carry as a freshman, transferred to Oregon, where my son played. So I'm always watching them. I spoke to the University of Oregon team a couple times and got to meet those guys. And this guy can catch the football. He can run inside. He's got enough speed and quickness to get outside. He's just a small guy, but he is super productive. And I think the Bucks got a good third down back that can give them some big plays on first and second down as well and can catch the football. And I'll be watching Bucky down here in my hometown of Tampa now.
That's a good pick. How about for you, Hot Rod?
I'm going in the 5th round. I'm going really edge rusher Muhammad Kamara from Colorado State. When you watch this young man play, he's big. He has that attitude, Coach, that you talk about. He has that relentless effort. He plays extremely hard. He's tough. I mean, the Miami Dolphins improved their pass rush. We saw the injuries that they had at edge rusher last year, whether it was Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. He played like an all-pro. He got hurt. So now they have depth, and I love this pick, Muhammad Kamara. I just think that he's coming from a smaller school. He's hungry, and this is a guy that's going to make immediate impact, and he gives you great depth.
So that's a good one. My last pick here of the 4 through 7 rounds is going to be a center, believe it or not, and it's a 7th round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals and Matt Lee. He was PFF's highest graded center. And to get him in the 7th round, so I think about what they've done with their offensive line. Now they have 2 tackles, and a third tackle with Mims that can play left or right and fill in and, hopefully become something throughout this year. Matt Lee, a guy that can hopefully play center. So their offensive line went from you really are trying to win despite it to this could be a strength for them. And if it becomes a strength with what the rest of the team is, I think they're a legitimate favorite for winning the Super Bowl this year.
Now, is it just my imagination, or did you have your eyes on the Bengals draft? Looked like you had pretty good insight here on the Bengals.
Once you took a Buccaneer, I felt better about it, Coach. So I just think their offensive line got better, and that's a hard thing to do in the draft, to fix one whole position group and to go little free agency signing, little draft. It was well done. They've really made better decisions than Bengals fans are used to. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I agree with you. They're gonna have to show up the defense a little bit. You're starting to talk about Super Bowls, Jack. Offensively, they're going to have that firepower. They're going to be able to run the ball with this new offensive line, but it's going to come down to that defense, replacing some of those guys up front.
Well, it always does. All right, let's get to the biggest head scratchers of the 2024 NFL Draft. Coach, you gave us a little teaser on this. Who's the biggest? What the heck were they thinking for you?
Well, to me, I go back to the Los Angeles Chargers. Coach Harbaugh comes in. He's got the 5th pick. And yes, I know what he wants. And I know he's got that University of Michigan Midwest mentality. We're going to pound the ball. We're going to run. We're going to be physical. And Joe Alt I think he's going to be a multi-year Pro Bowler. They got a great player. But you're sitting with the 5th pick, and you've got Justin Herbert, a franchise quarterback. Last year, you were 23rd in yards per attempt throwing the ball. You were 14th in passer rating with Justin Herbert. And you lost Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Gerald Everett. Now, you've got the choice of the best offensive players in football. And you can take Brock Bowers. You can take Malik Neighbors. You take an offensive tackle and he's going to be, I know he's going to solidify you for the next 10 years. But, man, when I had Peyton Manning, we were looking to feed that machine and put playmakers around him. So we're drafting Edgerrin James and Dallas Clark and Reggie Wayne and Joseph Adai and just trying to put those playmakers around. You aren't going to pick 5th in the draft many more times. And who did you pass up to take that offensive tackle? I look back at the 2020 draft. The Giants were picking 4th. The Jets were picking 11th. The Giants picked Andrew Thomas. Very good offensive tackle. The Jets 11 picked Mekhi Becton. Very good offensive tackle. Highly rated guys. Who did they leave on the board? Justin Jefferson, C.D. Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. I want those weapons if I've got a great quarterback.
Yeah, and I want protection. And that was one of the things that the Chargers didn't have last year and the year before that. They struggled on the offensive line, in particular at the right tackle spot. We know about Rashawn Slater. He's an all-pro. But you get a chance, and you said it out your mouth, Coach, that this guy is going to be a Pro Bowler the next 8 or 10 years. I mean, how do you pass that up? I understand, and I wanted the Chargers to take Brock Bowers. I was a big fan of them taking Brock Bowers. But you get a chance to solidify your $200 million quarterback. You don't have to worry about the left side or the right side. And just think, if Rashawn Slater, you're all-pro, if you can't work out a contract with him, then you have Joe Alt, who you can move to the left side. So I understand, and this is what the Chargers are probably thinking, okay, here the next year or so, we're going to have to pay him $25, $30 million a year, Rashawn Slater. Do we want to pay him that? You don't want to be in a situation where the Ravens were in with Ronnie Stanley, where they guaranteed him a whole bunch of money and he got hurt. So I get it. I understand it. I think it's a smart pick.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you say that, Coach, because I also think about the decision do we want to take Jamar Chase or do we want to take Penei Sewell? And that was a legitimate conversation.
Yes.
It was
same conversation. Yeah.
It's the exact same conversation. And when you hit it right on the money, it seems like that playmaker is worth it. If you get a guy that's maybe your second wide receiver as it plays out, you're probably kicking yourself going, man, I could have freaking had Joe Alt and he'd be holding down the left side. Like a Jamar Chase, there ain't no doubt it's worth it. You're never going, man, I wish we had Penei Sewell. So that to me is the question: is how great are these wide receivers?
Hold on.
You gotta wait and see. Yeah.
Penix, he is a stud. I mean, he's considered one of the top 2 or 3 offensive tackles in all of football, correct?
He's phenomenal. Would you rather have him?
Oh, no question.
But if you're asking me, and I love Jamar Chase, I love Jamar Chase. If I had a chance for either one of those guys, I'm going with the guy up front. Absolutely. I'm going with the guy up front that I know is going to be there for the next 8-10 years. Absolutely. It's not even a question.
What would you say, Coach, between those two?
If I've got a great quarterback and I am building to scare the other team, I'm taking the great receiver. It's just I understand that philosophy of winning up front and protecting your quarterback. But if I have a chance to draft Jonathan Ogden or Randy Moss, I'm taking Randy Moss if I've got a great quarterback.
Yeah, but it's only one Randy Moss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are those guys? Who are we talking about? Are they the real deal? That guy that can't be stopped? And I guess that's what you don't know. That's what you have to evaluate.
But guys, at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with either one of these guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you solidified your offensive line, or even if you get a wide receiver, you get a big play, explosive wide receiver. And Coach, you're not wrong for what you're saying at all. I get it.
And to Rodney's point, they came back from McConkey in round 2, so they, maybe they didn't get a top 5 pick as a receiver, but they got a damn good player in McConkey. So you kind of middle out and you get both guys. And I just felt that the alt pick was a reflection of Harbaugh's personality and how
that's all it was.
It was specific to him.
He was sending a message. Yes.
He was sending a message, Coach. I think that's
guys, for me in the 3rd round, I'm going with Trey Benson. I thought this guy was going to get drafted in the 2nd round. I thought he was tough. Watching him play at Florida State, just how big and how physical he is. He made a lot of guys miss tackles, just tough. And he runs downhill. It's not a lot of wasted steps. He's not guessing where the hole is at. He sees the hole, he hits it, and he's always moving forward. I think this is an outstanding pick for the Arizona Cardinals. You get Marvin Harrison Jr., you come back and get Trey Benson. I mean, 2 guys that are going to be 2 starters from day one. Kyler Murray should be feeling good about himself right now.
I like that. So head scratcher and Benson in terms of you like this pick. You like Benson.
I do, and I'm surprised that he fell to the 3rd round when you watch him play. Go ahead, Coach.
No, how did he last that long? That's the head scratcher for you, right?
Exactly.
You can scratch your head for a multitude of reasons. I just need a little clarification. I'm gonna throw one at you that is basically the opposite of your board. I think you had him as one of your favorite picks, and to me, a head scratcher was Brock Bowers to Vegas, and I'll tell you why. It felt like a luxury pick for a team that has practical needs still. So you already took Michael Mayer with a high pick last year, and maybe they've just decided that we don't think he's going to be a star, and so we need to go fix that pick and now take Bowers. And maybe that's what's happened. But we saw Mayer get better throughout the course of last year and become a factor for them in the offense. What's the value of having 2 tight ends like that when they have so many needs, including quarterback?
Well, I think you look at their ability on offense to have 2 tight ends on the field at the same time, run a 12 personnel. They can come out, they can be bigger than you, or they can spread those tight ends out and say, okay, you guys come cover us. See if you can cover our big athletic tight ends. So to me, when I see 12 personnel and I see 2 big tight ends that can catch, I'm like, oh my goodness. The linebackers, okay, as a safety, who am I going to help out? Because the linebackers have to cover those guys, and those guys are good blockers. So to me, I get it because, like I said, the impact that Travis Kelce had in that division, now you're putting all the pressure on Steve Spagnuolo, defense coordinator of Kansas City, to have to defend Brock Bowers and Mayer and those guys. But yeah, I mean, you can never have too many tight ends. I mean, just look at Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I'll share something with you guys that Bill Polian told me before our first draft together in Indianapolis in 2002. And he talked about his first round philosophy. Said, we've got to draft to fill needs, but in the first round, never pass up special to fill a need. So you may go into it thinking, hey, we need this, we need that, we need a pass rusher, we need this. But now there's a guy who you got graded as super blue special, Brock Bowers. We can't pass him up, even though we might not need that, because special wins games for you. And we did it. We did it. We drafted Reggie Wayne when we had Marvin Harrison. We drafted Dallas Clark when we needed defense. But in Bill's mind, these guys were going to be special players that we couldn't afford to pass up.
And they were, and it caused us a lot of problems, Coach. You better believe that, trying to defend all those weapons.
But that's probably what happened to Vegas, was that they probably thought he would go at 9 or he would go at 10 or 11. Exactly. And he just kept falling, and you're going, we got to take him now. Now he's got to be.
So you're sitting there saying, we can have this guy on our team, compliment Michael Mayer. We got 2 tight ends to throw to, or we might play against him for 8 more years. No, we don't want that.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I'm glad we hashed that one out, though, because that was definitely a little head scratcher when I first heard the pick. All right. Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Penix. So this is the one that set the internet, boom, on fire. 8th overall pick. Agree or disagree with that selection?
And to me, it comes back to just exactly what we were talking about. They don't need a quarterback now. They just signed Kirk Cousins, but you're sitting there, and if you evaluate this guy as special, and I like Michael Penix. I think he's got a lot of things that you look for, and apparently that's what they thought. Okay, this is a special guy. We can't pass him up. We're going to have Kirk Cousins for a couple of years. He'll teach him. There won't be a lot of pressure on him to play. And then you hope you have Aaron Rodgers, who sits behind that starter for a couple of years and then becomes a 12-year player for you. So I think it all comes down to their evaluation. Were they right on Penix? Is he special? If he is, it makes sense, and it's a great pick. If he's just average, it doesn't make sense.
But, Coach, you're talking kind of in hypotheticals. What do you believe? Was this a smart pick or not?
I like him, and I liked him better than most of the quarterbacks that we're talking about, very high. I watched him play in against good competition. I think he's special. I would have taken him in the top 10. I don't know that I would have paid $100 million to somebody and then taken him, but I had no doubt he's a top 10 talent.
Yeah, you think about it, guys. I actually agree with it. It stunned me for a second, but as I thought about it, I understood. In essence, Kirk Cousins, this is a 2-year, $100 million deal. Last year, Kirk probably made in the $40 million range, so now he's making $50 million. You get a chance to get the guy that you covet, that you really, really like. And I thought this kid was actually better than Drake May at 3. I liked him better than Drake May at 3. So when they drafted him and all the issues the Falcons had last year at the quarterback position, the first thing I said, Jack, was, their quarterback room is good now because they have insurance just in case something happens to Kirk Cousins. He's still playing on turf. He's 36 years old, coming off a major, major injury. So there's no guarantee. So to me, the Falcons want to win right now with Kirk Cousins, but they have a long-term plan. And they're not a Dallas they're not a pass rusher away from winning this division or going to the Super Bowl. So solidifying that quarterback position, I thought, how brilliant was that? I know from the outside, people, get a pass rusher. But at the end of the day, you go into the season. If anything were to happen to Kirk Cousins, you have a viable backup plan.
That's it. And plus, they got Ruco row your boat in round 2. So there's your pass rusher.
Yeah. Hey, let me take you guys back to 1983. I'm a young coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's a very good quarterback draft. Okay, very similar to this year. John Elway, Jim Kelly, Todd Blackledge, and this guy named Dan Marino. Dan Marino is in our hometown. We've seen him for 4 years. Everybody in the building thinks he's special. The owner loves Dan Marino, but we've got Terry Bradshaw. So does it make sense to take a quarterback when you've already got Bradshaw? We pass on him. He goes to Miami and plays lights out from day one, plays for a long time. And how many years? It was 20 years the Steelers were trying to draft a quarterback after that until they got Ben Roethlisberger. And I learned that lesson there, and that's what Bill Polian said. Don't pass up special. If you think it's special and you got a chance to take it, take it.
That's it. And all the data analytics will show you the positional value of quarterback relative to any other position. It's not even close, right? So, I mean, if you don't have that position, I think they learned that last year, which is probably what prompted this. If you don't have one of those guys, you don't have a chance. It doesn't matter how good your skill players are, how good your defense, you got to have a guy. And so they went from 0 to possibly 2. And, a guy coming off an Achilles, there ain't no guarantee that he's going to be out there for 17 games. So if he misses a few and you got Penix throwing laser beams all over your practice field and the players are noticing it and they're going, hey, this is different here, they're going to be ready for him to get a little bit of a chance. And shoot, if he takes who's to say you can't trade Cousins in the offseason or make your move if it comes to that? As long as you hit at that spot, you got a chance to win. And I think that's what they got right with this.
Yeah, it keeps the locker room engaged too, because if anything were to happen to Kirk, they feel like they have hope because they have someone right behind him. And the kid, he's like, Coach, you know him. He's a good kid. He's smart. He's going to work hard. He's a very humble kid. So they picked the right person, a good locker room guy and a good football player.
All right, last question here, and you guys can take it any way you want. Which team improved their roster the most throughout the draft? If you just are watching it and you're sitting back and you're just thinking, who got better here? Which team got the most better? Who would you say?
Well, I have to look at some of the people that we had on our star board here, and look at Philadelphia. Philly made some picks that we agreed with, that we said these guys are going to help them on defense and offense. So that would be my first shot out of the box, Philadelphia Eagles.
For me, I'm going to go with your old team, Coach, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought they got a good young linebacker, but really taking care of the interior of that offensive line, getting back. We talked about them a lot last year, Coach, getting back to what they do best, playing physical in the interior of that offensive line, running the football, which is going to open up the play action pass and shots down the field. But it's the Pittsburgh Steelers getting a center, getting 2 guards. Man, that's huge for what they've done.
I like it. I'm tempted to go somewhere else because Coach said Philly as well. A team for me that probably would have been my first as well, to be honest with you, coaches. But I'm gonna go with the Denver Broncos, and they were in a weird spot because they wanted to come up and probably get Penix. I think you had a lot of teams that really became hot on Penix late, which probably drove Atlanta to say, if all these guys like him and we like him, we should probably just take him, So I think they were one of those teams that was hot and trying to move up. But then they end up taking Bo Nix, who I think with Sean Payton and with that scheme will work,
And if you remember last week, our last podcast, I said, look out for Bo Nix. He was going to be one of the down the line. I didn't know where he's going to go, but experienced guy who his teammates love him. They rally around him. He's played a lot of football. He's a winner. I agree with you. That is not a bad pick.
Hey, Coach, is there anyone in the NFL that you can compare him to that's playing right now? Bo Nix?
He's got athleticism. He's been around the block. It would be easy to say Brock Purdy, but he's got that same type of productivity, and he's a guy, man. I tell you, those players just rally around him, and so I'm gonna throw out Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I was thinking Brock Purdy, Coach. I was thinking kind of a athletic Brock Purdy. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sean Payton jumping on there and with Bill Belichick, because Belichick got him on their show. I don't know if you guys are watching any of that, and explaining the pick. It was a fascinating listen. He's got McAfee there, and he's got Belichick, but he's explaining his thought process with the pick. And basically what they did is they took all of those schemed, short, easy completions out and then said, okay, now where does he rank? And he's first, and he's first, and he's first at all these various different, categories, third down, intermediate pass, whatever it was. He's going, okay, that's interesting. You don't have to move up and give up trade value. They also took his receiver from college and Troy Franklin in round 4. So it's going to give him some built-in comfort. And then the power running back of Estime. So they did some things to make him more comfortable too, which I think will help.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a better offense next year. No question.
Yeah. Well, there you go. NFL Draft 2024. This was fun, man. I really appreciate you guys taking a little time out of your schedules to provide some insight before we get back to the season and all that it will entail.
Yeah, this was fun, man. And, I just like to say, watching the NFL Draft and seeing these kids change their lives and having an opportunity to impact their community, I'm so excited. I'm so blessed to be able to sit here and watch them.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that you want all these guys to remember is, it's great to be drafted, but this isn't the end of the journey. This is just the beginning for them. So now you've got to go. If you thought, hey, being drafted in the first round is great, I love it. Okay, now continue to prove that. If you were a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick and you felt like you should have been higher, you can continue to prove that. And it's not over. It's just the beginning.
Amen. And it's coming from Tony Dungy, baby.
Rodney Harrison, we're out. Football of America podcast. We'll be back to it soon. I look forward to it. Always.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.